All right. Hi, everyone. Love to see it. Everyone piling in. Everyone's here for Kelly's last SEO juice before she's out for maternity leave. We're gonna have a baby in the SEO juice family here soon.
Well, we already have two. We have yours, but I'm glad
Yeah,
we're
I
adding
know.
another
I'm
boy
not
to the
forgetting my
mix.
own kids, but they're not babies anymore. Now we're gonna have a baby.
Yeah, that's true.
All
Well, I guess
right.
it's serendipitous that this is a bit family themed. I also kind of thought
Oh
this was
yeah.
good because it highlights today's theme, our main theme.
You're always spot on with the SEO juice backgrounds for the calls.
I can say they've gotten a lot better since we've gotten pro versions of a lot of these, well, of all of the LLMs, really, like that we can use them. So I'm not getting weird six-fingered people, with backwards joints and extra limbs.
Right. I think by far Gemini is probably my favorite for image generation. Claude's pretty good though. ChatGPT is horrible.
Yeah, it can take a few. Um, I
I
found
mean,
one
there's
where I
like
like
better
this.
tools. Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on what you're doing and what you're trying to do. I will say some of them, ChatGPT is really bad at once you get an image you like, and sometimes it happens right away, it's really bad at editing it.
Oh,
Well,
it's terrible at editing it.
oh
I
yeah,
get
I'll
so
do
many
that this time. And like you gave me the same image.
I know. Why do I have five arms? You're right. I'll give you two arms. Gives me five arms again.
Yes.
I was saying that yesterday. It's always funny when you correct ChatGPT and they're like, "You're absolutely right." And it's like, well,
Like,
what
I
if
know I am.
I?
Why don't you do it right the first time? Anyways, welcome everyone. We can go ahead and get started to the April edition of the SEO Juice. We are so excited to have you all here with us. We got some really great topics today. If any of you are new, we can go ahead and introduce ourselves. I'm Casey McBride. I am Sochi Senior Director of Digital CS and Value Strategy. I've been here for, gosh, almost 6 years with my counterparts here. And we really just orient ourselves around what is going on in the industry. How can we help our customer base to understand how to be successful in all of these various channels? And I tell you what, it's a really exciting time to be working in this realm. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Mike and Kelly to introduce themselves.
Yeah, hi, I'm Mike Snow, the local SEO enablement manager here at Sochi, and as I like to joke, SEO evangelist. And I always joke that because SEO never ends, and traditionally people have ended it, right? Once you sign up with a service like us, now more than ever, you need to stay on top of it. And so we are very happy that you join us every month and listen to us talk about the things that excite us and that affect you, which is why it excites us. Yeah.
Hey everyone, Kelly Satino. It's always funny if Mike introduces himself first. I kind of just copy what he says, and then if I go first, he'll say the same as me. So Mike and I do a lot of the same things. I'm just on the social side, he's on the search side. Casey said it at the beginning. For anyone who has joined a little bit late, though, this is going to be my last juice until July. I'm going to be going out on maternity leave next week, so I will be missing you guys for a couple of months. But I'm excited to jump back in later this summer to pick on back up.
We'll
And you
have
know,
a juice box joining the family.
Yeah, I love it. When you're gone, like the biggest changes in social are going to happen, right?
I
Like,
know.
Probably, I'm
I
sure.
know. There's going to be some like massive acquisition and TikTok's going to roll out some crazy reporting or something like it's all going to happen. Uh,
yeah.
that'll be that'll be exciting. But all right, so we are going to break it down. We're going to cover some industry news, what's happened since we chatted with you all last month. We're going to get in a little bit to the search everywhere journey. If you've been with us from the beginning, you know that the SEO juice has evolved from talking about search engine optimization to search everywhere optimization because it is not just about one place anymore. And so we're going to get into a little bit of what that actually looks like and what we mean when we say everywhere. We're going to hit on some checkbox optimization. So, new categories that have rolled out, things that we're seeing, and then some caught in the wild to close us out. And with that, industry news. First and foremost, Page impressions have been overcounted in Search Console for nearly a year. If you follow Soshi on LinkedIn, you might have seen a video that I posted on Monday covering this topic. Um, Basically, Google announced on April 3rd, very quietly, in their Search Console, what's it called? Data, I forget what it's called. Their data, we can get a link after the call so you guys can see it. I forget, there's like
Yeah,
a specific, yeah, what's it? Oh, data anomalies in Search Console page. There we go. And essentially stated that since May 13th of 2025, the stats have been over counted for search impressions. It did not impact website clicks. It did not impact, like well, I guess it would have impacted click-through rate because that's relative to your impressions. But it didn't impact keywords, things like that. But I am going to be honest, this one feels like a bigger deal than Google's kind of letting on, right? Like this, as far as I understand, there's no plans to go back and restate this data. Maybe if Brad's on, he might know. Oh, no, we don't have our Google friend on today. But as far as I understand, they aren't going back and restating this data. They're just fixing it from now moving forward, which means that if you are trying to understand your search impressions data in Google Search Console year over year, it's pretty much going to be irrelevant until this time next year when you can finally start getting some solid year over year comp and like equivalent metrics. Which is kind of crazy to think about. I think a lot of people really rely on search impressions. And I also want to be clear because I think there's some confusion over this too. When we're talking about Google Search Console, we're talking about search impressions. This is not Google Business Profile. These are not your business listings. This is Google's like webmaster tool. This is what you use on the balance of your website. So this is really crucial for a lot of SEOs in understanding web traffic to their pages. So, I think we'll just have to kind of see what happens. I don't think we have a full understanding yet of just how overstated the metrics actually were. Once we get a good picture of, to what degree folks are noticing drop-offs now that they're going to go back and restate, my suggestion would be to try to go back and maybe smooth out your numbers best you can to get some semblance of understanding of what your visibility might look like. I think another reason why this is challenging is clicks aren't necessarily king anymore. Web traffic isn't really happening as much as it used to. And I'm going to be honest, I don't think web traffic is gonna go back up. I think that for a lot of the reasons that we're going to get into today, it is really about how you appear, how visible you are, what kind of impressions you're getting. And so not being able to accurately log and track that, I think is a really big miss on Google's part. So here's to hoping that they do go back and restate so that we don't have any issues. But speaking from experience working with Google, I am not sure that they will. So definitely something to keep in mind as you are trying to understand your performance on your website for your visibility.
Yeah, that's a good point. We always talk about local pages because we're talking about local search, but this goes beyond. This is any website. This is all web traffic. I will say from a local page perspective, when I first saw this news breaking, I did check a couple Search Console accounts, and from a local page standpoint, I didn't see a significant rise in traffic around that date.
Okay.
So at least for local pages, because it may have been a categorical kind of thing, it may have been where they were appearing and how they were appearing. But what I've seen from local pages from about a dozen or so that I've looked at, traffic was still going down around that time of year. In some cases are going up. So you may not see anything, but it may show up on another part of your site. So if you see anything significant when this change happens, because it may have ramped up too, right? It started not a lot and then it just significantly got bigger. If you start
Yeah.
seeing this, like we'll be looking at obviously customers that have pages and we'll see these things. But if you see this in your own sites or pages, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, which actually the other thing I'm thinking of too, Mike, is we had a number of instances where maybe customers are talking to us about, well, my page traffic is down, or here's what I'm seeing in Google Analytics, here's what I'm noticing on Adobe Analytics. And then obviously we're looking at Google Analytics as well, but then we're looking at, Google Search Console. I've joined a number of meetings in the past year where I've been like, wow, your impressions look great. And it's one of those things where I'm like, oh
That's
man,
true. I
you know,
really hadn't thought about that because I
yeah.
usually turn to Search Console first because I don't do the reports the way you do that come out of the other one. So Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I've been having a lot of conversations where I'm like, okay, then it's improving your click-through rate, right? Because your impressions look fantastic. So, from where I sit and kind of having some of those conversations, I'm really curious to understand what that gap is. What is that delta between
Yeah.
what you've been overstating the past year and what we see? And I think as the next couple weeks roll out, we'll get a better picture for just how significant this past year's overstatement truly was.
Yeah. And we don't have to keep repeating, keep running around on this one thing, but I do want to highlight one thing that I think you left out that's really important, which is make sure you're telling those people you report your metrics to that this is happening.
Yes. And unfortunately, this is going to be one of those things that we talk about and repeat over and over and over again. I think I will probably be having this conversation for the entirety of 2026 at this point, because unfortunately, it was going on for most of 2025, and we just didn't know it. So,
All
thanks,
right.
thanks a lot, Google.
Moving on.
Moving on to Instagram. So if anyone was in the Marketing Unboxed webinar that Mike and I did like 2 weeks ago, some of these industry updates are going to seem familiar. So the video might be buff. Oh, there we go. But I can describe it if it's not working super seamlessly. But basically, Instagram kind of quietly changed their search experience a little bit, which is something they've been very transparent about wanting to do. So in the past, when you would search for something within Instagram, the experience was a little bit clunky, kind of random things came up, but now you can see it's pretty consistent that the majority of content that appears are reels. So they're video content, it's video content with text overlay on it that matches what you're searching for. So if I search car insurance here, you can see a lot of what comes up are videos that do, have the words car insurance in it. So the takeaway there is whenever you are creating content, if you want it to be discoverable, the best strategy is to create a video and to have that text overlay. Everything that I've always read has been that it doesn't have to be text that's added onto the video within Instagram. The text can be embedded onto the video, so you can definitely use like a third party tool. It can be on the file that you upload into Sochi. It doesn't matter where the text comes in because Instagram is able to scan it and crawl it no matter what. So we already know that Reels are the best content type for discoverability, but now kind of seeing and playing around with it here, you can see the vast majority of responses that come up when you search here are definitely Reels.
I've also noticed, Kelly, when I click into profiles anymore, it seems like Instagram is almost defaulting a lot of my view on like their reels rather than their grid. I don't know if you've been
Mm-hmm.
seeing that too. So I guess that, I mean, it kind of mirrors a lot of what we've been saying about reels, but just made me think of that. It's interesting, some of the
I
interface changes they're working through.
I agree. I agree with you. I'm noticing that as well. I feel like it's like shifting a little bit, and they're not necessarily announcing it, which they are really good at announcing changes. But I think these things they're kind of still messing with to see what's working and what's not before they give out any type of like formal, this is what's happening. But yeah, I think there's a lot of subtle search changes happening right now within Instagram.
Yeah.
And I have a note here too, just if you're not working with your SEO team, if you are on the social side or if you don't have separated out teams and you're really just, focused on social, I would definitely nudge you to kind of try to flex that SEO muscle and see what people are searching for on the search side. And then that way you could create content that mirrors that. And then you kind of have an idea of what people are searching for on Instagram as well. Speaking of Instagram being good at announcing their UI updates, I know I talk about Adam Mosseri all the time. So just another reminder to follow him. So he is high up at Instagram and again is very good at announcing when there's updates and changes that are happening from within the platform. So two smaller UI updates. I say smaller because they're not as far as like a business goes, the most like strategic changes here, but people, users find these to be helpful. So one, you can finally pause a reel by tapping on this. So it mirrors what you can do on TikTok. meaning whenever you're watching a video, you can now like pause it by tapping on it. You weren't able to do this before, and it was actually very frustrating, especially because there is so much text on Reels now. I was trying to follow like recipes or tips or whatever, and I couldn't, I'd have to screenshot it to actually get it to pause. So you can pause it now by tapping on it. From a content creation perspective, I mean, it does maybe make you feel a little bit more comfortable about putting text on your content, knowing people can pause it and read it. And then the
Yeah.
other one would be you can finally reorder carousel posts after they've been posted. So this is within Instagram natively. It's not within Sochi. You can post carousels from Sochi, but the ability to reorder them would come from within Instagram. So that's something that I think Instagram's been getting a lot of feedback on from like influencers and creators and things like that. So again, just two UI updates we want to make sure everybody was aware of.
All right. Moving on. Something I discovered recently, and I think once everyone was told, they're probably seeing it too. About a third of local results on mobile are now paid placement. If you do a local search on your mobile phone right now, not necessarily maps, just regular mobile search, you're going to find that every fourth result after you get past the two or three ads at the beginning are going to be another sponsored ad. So what that means is it's about 50-50.
It's
They're
so
or not
annoying.
50-50, it's about a third. It's about five or six ads to 10 results. What's really tricky about this is we're all used to and expect to see sponsored results at the top. We still see that in desktop. So when we're doing it in mobile, it even took me a few tries to realize I kept clicking on sponsored results when I was doing some research. I'm like, why are there more things appearing? Because when you sponsor your listing, you can get extra features. And I realized that that was going on. So we want to make sure you understand this because this could very well affect your click-through rates. So if you're appearing third, you're still going to appear, well, let's say you're appearing fourth, you're still going to be fourth, but now you have an extra person ahead of you. If you're sixth, now you're going to have two people ahead of you. So it's just a good thing to know that whatever your industry is, unless it's the food and beverage industry, I think that's the only one I didn't see every fourth one being an ad. You may see those click-through rates decline. So make sure that you're doing everything you can on your profile so that when you do appear and you're competing against these listings that are paying for these extra features, that yours looks really good, that you have really good photos on it, that you have all the CTAs that you can. So just something to keep an eye on and keep in mind. And another good reason, not like you really need any more, to fully optimize that profile. Moving on.
Oh,
Casey.
that's me. I'm so sorry. I thought
It's
there was another
okay.
social one. Uh, I'm like scrolling through the attendee list. I'm like, wow, look who's all here. So Casey hadn't heard, there was a March 2026 core update. It is still in progress. It started at the end of the month. Um,
Actually, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just read it stopped today or
oh,
yesterday.
stop
I
today
didn't
or
get a
yesterday.
chance to update it, so apologies.
Okay, no worries. Um, Look, with any core update, we will see what we will see. But I don't like to panic. And I will say this every single time that there is a core update, and we will always talk about them. We will always make you aware because they certainly can influence how you appear and the things that you're appearing for. But usually when Google's making core updates, they're doing it from a like user benefit. And so if you are the best answer, which I think at this point, Mike, we need to trademark that phrase, like the best answer. But if you are truly the best answer, then you shouldn't be as impacted, right? Like if you are meant to be there, if you are doing all of the proper things you're supposed to do when you're optimizing, these updates should benefit you versus hinder your performance.
Exactly. Cool. So we won't spend any more time on that. And moving on to Facebook.
Yeah, so Um, I feel like we don't get to talk about Facebook enough because all the updates happen on Instagram and TikTok. So I definitely try to bring Facebook into the mix whenever we can, because I know a lot of people still use Facebook as their main network that they post from on for their business. So Amplify, which is another partner, took a look at what drives Facebook Reels engagement. So again, Reels on Facebook, meaning video content on Facebook. And there were some themes amongst this that I want to call out. One being that human speech in the first 3 seconds drives a better response, meaning better, performance. And then whenever a person appears for at least 1 second within the first 3 seconds, retention improves as well. So the takeaway from that is that having people in your content really helps. Like local content, so like staff members, customers, behind the scenes content. So as much as you can incorporate that hyper local content that's very authentic to what your business does, including the people who either patron you or work for you, et cetera. They're seeing that really has a substantial response in performance. Also, vertical videos get a lot better performance as well. So whenever you're posting content, you should always post it for the channel that it's going out for. So YouTube is where that more long form horizontal videos might be able to go, but for Facebook Reels, TikTok, Instagram Reels, you want to make sure you're using vertical videos. And then again, just as much as you can, incorporating that local content, which often does have humans in it, because again, humans is what makes your business feel authentic.
Yeah, I will say, Kelly, I was realizing as you were talking about making sure there's at least a second of like a person, that when I'm going through videos, wherever that might be, I'm always looking for that because it's such a signal that it's not AI.
Yeah.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it's this, oh, it's not something, a script someone wrote and sent through something and pushed up there. I'm reading something that's presumably, read and created by a real human.
Right. It is just so much more authentic, like you said, Kelly. It really, especially when it comes to like local content. I mean, I even just thinking about our own behaviors if we're on Facebook or Instagram and the second I see like somebody who works at like a local coffee shop or a restaurant that I go to or whatever like store that I frequent, like I'm way more willing to engage with it and watch it than either like standard waterfall marketing content from the national page or like you said, Mike, AI generated whatever they're gonna give me. Yeah.
Exactly. And we know you can't incorporate this in all the time, but just as much as you can, to break up, some of the more, I don't want to call it stale content, but more generic or generalized content definitely can help. So we do have the full study linked out there that in the recap, you guys will be able to take a look at.
Well, I think what's important is having like a good mix because we hear from our
Mhm.
customers all the time how hard it is for them to get enough content if they're trying to only rely on like franchisee development. Shameless plug for Soshi, but that is why we've been working so hard on agentic type tools to develop content, to try and help you waterfall content, to come up with new ideas. Because I think when you have a good balance of both, you get both the kind of like depth of what you need and the correct mix that you need and also still try to sprinkle in all of those authentic moments for your locations because I don't think
Exactly.
that one completely fixes the other. I think you to be a sufficient brand in these channels you have to have that mix.
Totally. Yeah.
And I was just thinking how hard it is, obviously, if you're a multi-location brand and you don't have the ability to do those local videos. It's obviously a lot easier for a franchisee model, let's say, because you have owners that can take this into their hands. But I'd love to see the national brand that leans into the fact that they can't make these local videos and creates a bunch of self-aware AI local videos. Like, our people are too busy giving you good
Oh,
service.
that'd be
So
so funny.
here's a terrible AI video instead.
Oh, that'd
I
be
really want someone
amazing.
on here to do that because I want to see it.
I
Hire
know.
Mike Snow for your creative directions for
Yeah, who
social
would have thought
media.
that Mike would also be a social media consultant?
Yep.
Let us know.
Um, Moving on. This is not new news, at least not if you've been paying attention to or joining us in the SEO Juice. Back in January, we noticed that Google and Google Maps within the app had started adding these review filters, which is something you need to know about because just like you need to have above a 4.0 to appear in best of searches, you want to know what that limit is or what that threshold is within your area to appear in searches because these filters appear very prominently. I guess, and I think it's because Ask Maps started to appear in Google Maps. Over the past couple of weeks, it seems like the rest of the industry has caught up. So you may have seen some news about this. But it's just always fun to say, hey, we noticed this a while ago. But I would highly recommend if you haven't looked up your industry within the Google Maps app, check it out, see what they're showing, see what those review volumes are. They're different per industry, per area. It seemed to be like a certain percentage of the average, like 20 to 50% of the average of the top 20 or so. But again, it's something that could exclude your business, especially if you're a new business, right? If you open a new location and you need to build your reviews, this can give you a good benchmark, a good place to hit. So, beyond using even the local grid, because that's another thing, just knowing what your competitors are is another way to do this as well. Moving on to our last bit of news. Casey, you want to take
Yeah,
this?
well, news is there is no news. So if you've been with us for the past month or so, we've been talking about this bug in review reporting. Essentially, what's happening is we're getting misstated numbers, sometimes reviews that might show up in a dashboard are then suddenly removed. Like it's really, really buggy is kind of the best way to frame it. And we're getting miscounts. It's really hard for customers right now to measure their success and reputation from a volume perspective because things are just missing oftentimes. And we are working very closely with Google. We have a great relationship with them. We meet with them every 2 weeks and we ask every 2 weeks how it's going. And unfortunately, there is still no ETA on a fix, but Google has acknowledged it is on their end. And we are impatiently waiting to see when this will be resolved. And as soon as it is, trust me, we will get the word out there.
Yep. Meeting with them again tomorrow, so hopefully we'll have some good news.
Fingers crossed.
All right. Moving on to our poll of the day.
I love
Where
this
did you
poll. I'm excited to see the answers.
Yeah.
want to lead this case?
Yeah, sure. So, um, we would love you guys to answer this question. You have friends coming to town with kids and want to find a brunch spot with a good vibe and a diverse menu, but also easy parking and not too long of a wait because you got kids and you cannot wait. Where do you begin that search?
And I thought this was good. So glad we were talking about polls today. I know we haven't had one in a while. I kind of forgot about them, but this is a great segue into our main topic today, which is about that search journey. We talk about it every month. We talk about it all the time and things we post and stuff we create. But it's occurred to me a lot of people don't know that search journey and don't understand what's actually happening in that search journey. So we're going to do two things today, and while you're filling this out, is that I'm going to talk a little bit about AI search, specifically AI mode in Gemini, because that's, I think, where a lot of that traffic is going. It's really easy to do, and how that is determined and why there's a difference there. And then Kelly's going to go into what she means by the search journey within social and show you a different version, a couple different versions of that. But I am really interested to see where you all start your search journey. So do we think we should run and see what the
Yep.
answers are?
Let's see the results.
Google, Gemini, okay, 8%. Chat, okay, AI is really, and TikTok and Instagram. Kind
Yeah.
of what I thought when I did this.
We
I
have
wasn't,
a Yelper in the webinar chat too. We have somebody saying that they actually
oh,
Yelp for something like
that
that.
makes sense. I should have included
Yeah.
that. It was a restaurant question. That's a very good point.
Yeah.
But that's very interesting, right? We all assume Google. We all think about that as the starting point. But as we see, that start point is changing. It's going elsewhere. And it's really important to know that because, and it's also really important to know within your industry kind of how frequent that might be, right? If you're a gas station, it probably won't happen a lot in AI or social.
Well, I think something to think about
But
too is obviously the question that we provided has a lot of factors, right?
it,
So there's a lot of different consideration things that, this person is trying to find. And so like if the question was just sushi in Pittsburgh, it maybe that journey would look totally different. But if you have a lot of scenarios that you're like, but I'm really trying to find exactly what I want, I would imagine that shifts around kind of where you start and what you do. Because sushi in Pittsburgh, I could see it being Google or even starting at like TikTok. But then like
True. Yeah, if it's a shorter, just simpler kind of search, exactly.
right, right. And even conversation in the chat, and this would be my behavior as well. Somebody said they would start with like a ChatGPT or a Claude and then go to TikTok, which would
And
absolutely be my behavior as well.
yeah. And that's the point, is that where are you starting that journey? And the idea is that, I think we provided some studies in previous SEO Juice sessions where we showed that search is declining not because people are searching for you less, but they're qualifying a lot of things a lot earlier, right? The journey doesn't need to be, they don't need to do as many searches on Google to get where they're going because maybe they're starting that elsewhere. They're using AI mode. And so we've seen signs of this. My favorite, I don't know if it's my favorite, but it was a very stark sign that this is happening, is we had a customer that set up groomer listings. The groomer listings from a ranking standpoint around grooming keywords were fantastic. 93% of their grooming listings were ranking within the top three pretty quickly. But yet only less than 1% of their total keyword impressions was actually for groomer. Which got me thinking, it makes sense. Like, I have a senior dog right now with anxiety issues. If I had to find a new groomer, I probably wouldn't look for groomer near me. I'd go into AI mode or go somewhere else, or maybe an elderly dog forum somewhere or a social group or something to find out, hey, where do I bring my old dog with anxiety issues, right?
Yeah,
Where they're going to
if you
begin,
have a
right?
number, right, if you have a number of qualifiers, just typing single query anymore isn't enough. And there are certainly still user behaviors that look like that. I mean, people still majority of the time use Google, but
Mhm.
people don't want to narrow it down anymore. They want to be as specific as you just said, Mike. Like,
Yeah.
my dog has anxiety issues. I need to find a groomer. Help me.
Yeah, I don't want to have to call around. I don't want to have to find all that. I don't have to look for this. I don't have a lot of time. I need to take care of this. And so one of the things in doing this, I really over the past few weeks have been, well, you've seen it in these all these sessions, is trying to figure out the best way to create content, to think about content, to make sure it's fresh, to make sure it's semantically relevant, to do all these things to make sure they're picked up by AI engines so you are presented as a good answer. And in doing that, I was doing some work with Google Posts, and I kind of backed Gemini and AI mode into a corner, which something I was surprised with, but I apparently there are some studies by much smarter data people than I that have proven this already. So it wasn't just Google telling me and my taking my word for it. But this idea, we've all heard about these fan out queries that AI does. You ask a question, Google parses it down into a bunch of queries, and then you know, puts that against the Google Knowledge Graph. And we've always assumed that Google had all the information that's available within your Google business profile. It's not the case. What's happening is Google's Knowledge Graph is sending back data that's relevant to the search in the same way you would see justifications for search results. It's doing the same thing to the LLM layer. And then that LLM layer is taking those bits of information it got, maybe 20 results tops, and then it's doing its own layer. And this is where you hear things like GEO, generative engine optimization. You could call it something different. We don't, because all these things are the same for everyone. There's just different weights for those things. But it's doing a couple things in narrowing that down to those final 3 to 10 recommendations, depending on what you're doing. It's looking for hard constraints. So it's basically looking for consistency. Doesn't want to send you somewhere that might be closed or the hours might be wrong or the contact information isn't right. Then it's looking for that semantic relevance that we've talked about a lot over the past few months. So I'm not going to talk about that here. But then there's that payload prominence. And now it's looking at reviews that are out there on the web, things that people are saying about you on message boards and other areas. And then it's creating that final recommendation packet. And that's why sometimes we see where what we might find in traditional Google search isn't the same thing when we go to AI mode or Gemini. It's not that the answers are different. It's just that it's going through a secondary filter, that it's deciding based on all these other criteria you want and what I think you typically like, I'm going to filter some of this stuff out. And so I'm going to go through a couple of examples of this so you can see this in practice. And then having that knowledge, use that to find out where you might need to do work or why you might not show up in these searches. What's really great is knowing that Google does this, or that AI mode or Gemini does this, you can ask it direct questions that it will tell you and it will give you a really good answer. So I'll give you an example right here. Was doing something for, we have a lot of vets and pet hospitals. So I was doing something recently where I did a search and I went to AI mode. And I did something, I had a dog that had Cushing's disease. If I had it again, I would want a doctor that knows it a little bit more. So I did a search, vets near Harrisonburg that specialize in treating dogs with Cushing's disease. And one of the things I found is I wanted to know why some were appearing and some weren't. So I asked Google directly, what were the other options returned that you didn't highlight, right? And why did you choose not to highlight those? And so in one instance, this Ashby Animal Clinic was showing up in the local pack. It was actually doing pretty well. And it's really funny because it says they're highly rated, award-winning clinic. And while they're the cornerstone of the community, they admitted them because look at this. They're doing general traditional SEO best of optimization practices. Those don't work anymore. Google and AI modes, they see those. They see it. It's really interesting, and they'll tell you they see it. I'll give you a couple more really good examples.
Like just going back to what you were just showing, I love that you asked why they didn't, what the other responses were and why they didn't include them. I feel like people don't realize like you can actually do that. You can talk, to these LLMs, and I think that's a really cool example because they sometimes do make mistakes, and maybe you are like, oh no, you know what, actually they misunderstood what I was asking for. I will call this one and at least inquire. So I thought that was a cool way of kind of showing all the different options you have when you're not just doing a standard search query.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was something it took a while for me to realize that that was something I should be doing. And if you don't understand what Gemini and AI mode and all these other things are actually doing when they do those fan out queries, that there is that other filter there, you wouldn't know to say, well, why didn't you include someone? And
Exactly,
knowing that
right.
some, yeah, sorry. So I guess I'll give an example here. We're going to look at something that's kind of the same thing. I'm going to show something live. I was going to do it live, but I realized you can't kind of control everything. So I'm going to go through this really quick. This is a search that I did last night, and I did I know we have a lot of recruiting friends on the phones typically, so I did recruiters that specialize in filling marketing positions in Irvine. And you'll see this is the traditional search results, which is great. You can see there's three results we have. I know someone on the call will be happy to see that. It's showing up in number two, ultimate staffing. um but then when I go back to AI mode, things change, and don't worry, it's a staffing is still there. Hold on a second. Here we go. So recruiters that specialize in filling marketing positions. So what I did is just hit AI mode. So AI mode, I didn't change what I searched. So that's really important. It's the exact same search. And so now Google changes things a little bit, or at least AI mode changes things a little bit. They start with top marketing focused agencies. So now they're looking for agencies that are focused on marketing because I talked about it. So the first three are going to be a little different, right? They're going to look for ones that do that exactly. Then they're going to go to boutique and regional specialty recruiters, and they're going to give some more results. And again, each time you search, you may get a whole different presentation. This changes constantly. There is no one presentation that AI mode, Gemini, ChatGPT, Claude, they're never the same. So we had a lot of different answers, and we got toward the bottom. We also have the general ones. We see ultimate staffing again. But what we don't see are the other two that were there. So I asked, why didn't you show these other two? And I won't make you sit there watching me type. You didn't include the other ones in your results. They were number one and number three in traditional search. Why did you choose to filter them out? Where do they need to do better to be included in the search conversation? So really straightforward, just asking a question. And what I get is really straight answer. While they're prominent local staffing players, they were not included in the previous results because their primary specialization is not in marketing. My goal was to provide agencies that have dedicated deep experience in creative and digital space. And this says something also about traditional search versus AI. In traditional search, you can optimize to show up for just about anything if you do the right work, but it doesn't mean you're the right answer, right? If someone's looking for a marketing-based answer, traditional search didn't do right by them, at least in two of the options, right? They did right by them with ultimate staffing, but not the other two. And then they basically say, here's why they were omitted. I won't read through all of it for time's sake. And we will provide this to see some of this stuff, and do your own search to honestly to see some of this. But then they also give where they can improve to do better, right? Like what they can do, segment their online identity, build use cases in marketing, like so they know that they do these things, industry awards, things like that. So I highly recommend you do this exercise and try this out. See what people are saying. If you don't show up, find out why. If you do show up, find out how you could do better. Ask those questions. Here's another really good example that I discovered. This was a dental practice, and I looked for, they wanted to show up for pediatric dentists, and dentist was their main category, not pediatric dentists. So I just searched best pediatric dentist. They showed up number three. They didn't show up there. So again, ask the question. And what was really interesting is they admitted that dental practice, high dominant traditional SEO. They were doing fantastic when it comes to traditional SEO. But it was things like reviews and message boards that hurt them. One of the things that was really interesting, and I don't think it was them, it was someone else, a customer recently that I talked to, Google noticed they had review campaigns. I've noticed you have like incentivized reviews. And the way I can tell is there are a bunch of reviews over a very short amount of time that mentions the same person or that has a lot of text in it or certain things like that. These LLMs are very good at identifying trends like, gaming SEO optimization and gaming reviews. You need to be really careful about those things and making sure you're capturing reviews organically, or you may be left out of the conversation. Another really interesting, oh, sorry, Casey, I think you're
I
looking
was
at,
just gonna, maybe you're getting there. I might be stealing your thunder. Never
no,
mind.
go ahead, please ask the question. I'd rather it be a conversation.
I was gonna ask, is this the scenario that you brought to me around the employee turnover? And
That's
they
another thing.
felt that was another, right? So was it that?
Yes. So this
Yeah.
is the thing I got to. It was brought up here, but then I wanted to ask if it was more of a brand, like a multi-location corporate brand versus a private practice. And so they brought up things around pediatric dentistry because if you're bringing a new kid, your child in for the first time, there's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of things going on. I know, I still remember as a kid going in. It's just, there's just a lot of anxiety around these things poking you. And one of the things to notice is that local practices are preferred for pediatrics, at least just in a general sense, because there's long-term relationships, they're very stable and community focused, where multi-location brands tend to have more frequent turnover. Now, and be speedier. So how do you get around this? And this is something where knowing this, you can create semantically relevant content. Like, hey, you can have a blog or you can have a Q&A. What do you do for, new kids who are going in for the first time? You're like, we understand that bringing your child in for their first dental visit is a real challenge and it's filled with anxiety for them. And that's why we do X, Y, and Z. So then it can kind of put against like, we're reading this, but they say they do this. So it could just be a couple bad experiences and it changes the narrative. And this is why you need to know about these biases that exist as well.
Totally. We did get a question on what is their definition of a review campaign? That was it just like indication in the reviews that were being left that they were
And it wasn't about a campaign, I guess. It was about an incentivized campaign. Usually when they saw common language or common like, oh, we mentioned that teacher or that barista or that, insurance agent, whatever it might be, people don't normally do that in reviews. Like
yeah,
if you got 20 reviews, you're going to have people who leave nothing and people who leave, books. But if you get 20 reviews in a short period and they're all super filled with data and like context and people's names, you're going to go, well, that seems a little weird compared to every other review they've ever gotten.
interesting.
And
Yeah.
that's what LLMs are getting really good at picking out. At least Google and Gemini. I will say you can get around it a little bit in other platforms if you keep your reviews on your page, I'm discovering. They're like, oh, well, reviews on the page say this. And I had that conversation with ChatGPT. So um, knowing we're going with time, I'll go through this a little more. I did a couple things. You can look at this later. I looked at things like national versus local pizza shops, right? We're all very passionate about our pizza. Why would we order Domino's versus our local favorite shop? And so understanding when those things would be recommended. I know we have a lot of food and beverage customers that want to be found for catering. So I asked, why would you recommend a restaurant versus a dedicated caterer? Understanding that, you can create content around that. I discovered one of the things that's going to help you out is if you start putting information about lead times you need, the prices of things, the kind of catering you offer, have more information about like the price per person information. That's the kind of things people are looking for. That might help you. But I found that out through doing this. So recommendations for success. I could sit here and do this all day, but I want Kelly obviously has some things. We have a few things to close up. Perform discovery in your industry. If you don't appear, ask why, uncover those biases, and create content that speaks to those shortcomings. So, like in that instance of that local dental brand, right? Creating content around it to address it. You'll get all this, but I want to get on to Kelly's stuff because this is amazing too. Because I only search in a couple of these, so I'm excited to know about the rest.
Yeah, so we just looked at property management today in Instagram, but I know there's a million different scenarios that we could show you guys. So even going back to the chat, I know some people said they start in ChatGPT and then they go to TikTok to find more information, etc. So the first one I want to show screen recording is how discovery can lead to a social search. So Mike, if you wouldn't mind, yeah. So this is me on Instagram, on a dog's Instagram account, as there are out there, and I see this dog is at this apartment complex, and it strikes me. Oh, do you want to pause the second one, Mike? I'm still on the first one. Sorry, I know you're also muted, but
Sorry, it
yeah. So
started going
just
on its own.
no, it's okay. But yeah, the first one. So I'm on this dog's Instagram account. I see this apartment complex, and then I click on it to learn more, and I see that there's a bunch of dogs there. So then I learn that the apartment complex is dog friendly. So then I go into Google and I search for that apartment complex, knowing that I'd like to know some that are dog friendly, being that I am a dog owner and I might be looking to move soon. So this was me discovering this apartment complex through Instagram, but then taking the search onto Google. And then for the second one, so this is where I'm asking in Google first for a dog friendly apartment complex in Pittsburgh. So this is where you start in Google first, which I think a lot of us probably do. And then scrolling
Ads.
down to
Gee,
see,
that's a lot of ads.
I
yeah,
know.
scrolling down to see all the responses that come up. I go past some listings. I'm clicking on these listings and I see Glasshouse has a review where it says it's pet friendly. So then I go into Instagram and I look up Glasshouse because this is where I want to see what it actually is like to live there, and to also make sure that there's dogs on their Instagram feed to match that they are in fact dog friendly. So I take my search into there. I see they are in fact dog friendly or pet friendly. So great. I confirmed it that way.
Gotcha. And in this instance, you could have also, if you were in the listing and they had their links to their social, you could have just taken that journey
Clicked out.
that way as well.
Yep.
Exactly. That would save me. Click.
Hmm.
This one I'm searching directly in Instagram for apartments with a pool. So here I picked Richmond for some reason. So I wanted to see apartments with a pool in Richmond, and I see some options come up here. I find this specific, apartment complex, and did it pause?
Yeah, I was just pausing it so you can talk about it if you
Oh,
want
okay.
to. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, no, you're okay. So then you can just, yeah, let it play out. So I go through and I look at different images there. I click on the actual handle from that post. I see what it's called. I click around a little bit more. Then I go into Google and I search for the apartment complex to actually get onto, their website, get some more information. So there it was kind of the opposite. I started in Instagram because I wanted to see photos first, and then I carried on the search onto Google.
And look at that. And then they have their attributes, which say swimming pool and validates that yet again, which is fantastic.
Exactly. And whenever it all matches up like that, it's so nice. And then also, I mean, obviously, like I could have just went straight to ChatGPT or Gemini or any of the LLMs, and they could have scraped all of this research that I'm doing right now. But some people, do different type of search journey. So I wanted to try to accommodate for a few different paths.
But if you're looking for vibes, this is the way to do it. One of the things
That's what
I
I was gonna
love
say.
with
You got to get the
photos,
vibes.
they're
Right.
terrible about giving you photos in ChatGPT and Gemini and all that, I've noticed. I've had to ask them, like,
Yeah.
I'm looking for a thing, can you show me what it looks like?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
And
And
then the last one here, I'm searching in Google directly. So I already know this apartment complex. I've heard of it. It's talk of the town. I want to see what their vibe looks like, as we were just talking about it. So this is where I'm on their listing. I go onto their Instagram that is appearing here, and I click onto their Instagram from just Googling them. So again, to your point, Mike, if they had it linked out, I could have clicked right onto that. But sometimes you go into it knowing like I'm hearing this apartment complex a lot. let me Google them, and then you see their Instagram come up, and hopefully it comes up quickly, so you're able to click out into it if you're interested in doing so. So, I
Mhm.
think this kind of is just a few very small examples of all the different ways that social search exists, search everywhere optimization exists. So I think sometimes people are, if they're not doing these search journeys, I think we're all kind of stuck on what we do ourselves. You have to put yourself in your customer's shoes and think, how are all the different ways they're searching and finding you? So that's why we wanted to provide some examples today of kind of opening up this world of possibility. And again, we could have probably spent another hour or so just on all the different search journeys that exist, but hopefully this was helpful to show you guys just a few of them.
Yeah. Thank you, Kelly. That was really great. And it's really interesting. Of course, I see through my SEO lens. I'm like, you had to go all the way down to the organic results. There should have been a carousel that showed like their social feed and all this other stuff, which shows they don't have those links. So it's this, you showed the experience, but this experience could be a lot smoother if they had done X, Y, and Z, right? To be
Right,
able
exactly.
to.
So it also kind of it's a good exercise I'd encourage everybody to do on their own businesses. So you can maybe see where there's any type of optimizations that you can make, to your own listings or social profiles.
All right. Well, we hope you all enjoyed that, got something out of that. I know just wanting to talk about it opened my eyes up to a lot of things, and it's why I'm constantly doing searches in all different industries to understand what is going on. And one thing also we're always checking on is what can you do from just an easy checkbox thing. Most of what we talk about are the hard things, right? The things you have to keep doing. This is the fun stuff. You want to take this one, Casey?
Sure, yeah. So as of March 25th, we have pickleball instructor, spine surgeon, and medical geneticist as Google business categories that you can use on your business listing. So if these apply to you and they're a better fit than what your current business definition is, I'd be surprised if we got some spine surgeons on here. But definitely something that you should look at updating on your Google business profile.
And I would hope we see some of the ones we've asked our Google friends about who he's not on here. I'll put him on the spot anyway, because if you're listening to the recording, I'm surprised sorry, trampoline parks and smoothie bars have been around longer than pickleball, and they still don't have a category.
I was going to say we get medical geneticist before we get trampoline park or yeah, no.
And there's already pickleball courts as a category. So to have instructor, I mean, that's great for instructor. My sister-in-law is an instructor. She's very excited. She can have a Google profile now. But it's amazing that there are other ones. So I'm gonna ask them again tomorrow for another update because I just don't understand it.
Astounding.
Hopefully more to come on that.
I mean,
Um,
thank God for medical geneticist is all I'll say.
right. Wrapping things up, Caught in the Wild, I just wanted to, this isn't a thing I saw necessarily on Google, or I didn't see too many things I saw I reported on, but I saw this yesterday and I just wanted to highlight this. I thought this was really great. One of the things I've always been very vocal about when Casey and I talk and when we do these is that we want to like demystify local SEO. I don't think it's as difficult in concept as it needs to be. Just conceptually, I think a lot of SEOs out there preach things that are tricks and things like that, which is why we talk about really organic, traditional, safe SEO, because as you saw when we get into LLMs, it can parse that stuff out. But I saw something really great. This woman, she's over in India, and she took umbrage to the idea of guru being used in terms of SEO because guru is a trustworthy spiritual guide. She talked about what it really means in terms of, religion over there and things like that. And, it noted how over here it's kind of just turned into kind of a snake oil kind of thing.
Thrown around. Yeah.
And what I love is that a bunch of like really technical, really well-respected kind of SEOs chimed in, including John Mueller over at Google, who I love. To me, when someone self-declares themselves as an SEO guru, it's an extremely obvious sign that they're a clueless imposter.
Yeah, John
Nobody knows
Mueller with
anything.
the clueless imposter zinger over there. Jeez. Never
And
again will I use the phrase guru for literally anything.
I know. And that's the point, and that's what we talk about. I mean, people say a lot of things, even what we say may be wrong once in a while. And it's one of the reasons I like to highlight when we're proven right, because I think it helps our POV and how we approach SEO. It's not just a pat on the back. It's to show you're not wasting your time by listening to us, and we really do take this stuff seriously. We don't. I don't know if I'm saying stuff under the hood. We don't. We never had to do this. We wanted to do this. The SEO juice. I think this was born out of love and wanting to get this stuff to you. And so when I read stuff like this, it kind of gets to the core of why I do this. I don't want you to be taken in by these easy tricks or these people that say, you come with us, we're going to get you a million leads. No one can guarantee that stuff. You have to do it right. You have to think about it that way. And what I love to, this is a self pat on the back. I'm sorry. Internally, about 3 years ago, I put together some training around SEO and I talked about the Dunning-Kruger effect. For those who know it, you'll laugh. For those who don't know, look it up. I won't talk about it. But I talked about like these steps along the path, and they talk about the guru. And I always say anyone who claims to be a guru must go back to they think they know enough to know everything. These people that think they know everything. So I just felt really good about that, and that kind of our POV, I think is I'm just happy that we're talking about this in the way we are, and in the way that a lot of others aren't, I guess. So
Yeah, honestly, from this 3-year-old presentation, I think for the past 3 years, calling someone at the peak of Mount Stupid has been one of my favorite realizations since then.
yeah.
And then we do watch people actively enter the valley of despair
Mhm.
after they
We
realize.
did it. I think we all did it at a certain point. I remember
We
when
all
I
did.
Casey was ahead of me for a very long time, and she still is. She still thinks she knows way more than I do. And man, when you came on and knew more than I felt so dumb for so long. So
Mike, you have far surpassed my knowledge especially when it comes to business listings. I live in the valley of despair, just enlightened by your findings.
um to wrap things up, though, we did want to thank you for listening to us, by the way, but we did want to give you other resources, talk about other resources that we have. We want to get in front of you as much as possible. We've talked about the how to find the SEO juice. It's in Soci Central. If you're not a customer, it's on the website and on YouTube. You can find our other SEO Juice webinars. Soci Central. Hopefully, if you're a customer, you've gone here. There's a link right in your Soci dashboard that'll bring you there. If you don't know what the address is, it's super easy to get to. We're trying to get new content in there at least every other day. As soon as we find out about news, we're putting content in there. It's a place where you can ask questions in between. But there's something new, Casey, do you want to talk about that's going on in between our
Yeah,
SEO?
we've got SEO Juice Unfiltered. So we are dedicating 30 minutes on Wednesday, April 22nd to, I know, Kelly, we will miss you. If you want, I can like call you in. Just kidding. So, any any search question you have, AI search, it can be a social question too. I'm not as savvy as Kelly, but I got some chops. Please join, register, hang out with us. We would love to help you get prescriptive, put us on the spot. If we don't know the answer to something, we won't pretend that we do. We are anything, everything but honest, or oh, what am I
Everything
trying
but
to say?
honest. Wow.
Anything but honest. We are, wow. Okay, and that's a great way to leave today's webinar. No, we try to approach you all with authenticity and honesty. And look, if we would just love to hear what your questions are. So please, 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 please come hang out with us. Looking forward to it.
And with that,
Awesome. We will either see you there or we will see you next month.
and Kelly, we can't wait to have you
Kelly,
back.
Thank
so
you
excited
guys.
for
I'll
you.
Good
see
luck.
you in a couple months. Bye.
See you in a few
Bye
months.
all. Thank you.